Okay, so it's been quite a long absence. It's been a very busy couple of months, but I will be making more videos, so check back. Now, to partly compensate for this long absence, I'm going to talk about the Kabbalah. A few people have asked me to talk about this subject, and I'm going to tackle it today. Now, you may be aware the Kabbalah was originally a Jewish mystical or theosophical system that was later adopted by Christian thinkers, and from there it was adopted into the world of the quote-unquote Western esoteric tradition, and where it remains of great importance today. Now, you may also be aware or have seen the Kabbalistic tree of life, a kind of vertical tree with three trunks and various spheres placed on it, on these trunks. And this is not the only version of the Kabbalah or the Kabbalistic worldview as mapped out. There's also that's the Yosha Kabbalah or the upright Kabbalah, and there is also the Igulim Kabbalah or the spherical Kabbalah. And in regards to the Kabbalistic tree of life, briefly, according to mythology, there was a great void called Ein Sof. Light emanated from this void and created this structure of different spheres of being. So at the very top of the Kabbalistic tree, you have Keter, or the crown. At the bottom, you have Malkut, or the kingdom, or really the material cosmos, the world in which we find ourselves living. And in the Igulim Kabbalah, again, you have this void, Ein Sof. Light penetrates the void but spreads outward. And then from there, you get these different spheres of being. But instead of being arranged on a tree-like structure, they're arranged within each other. So Keter, the most spiritual of all of the worlds or spheres, is on the outside. And then by the time you get close to the center, you have Malkut, or the material cosmos, as it were. Now, historically speaking, most scholars will point to the 12th century Spain and France as being the origins of the Kabbalah. Now, practitioners will often say that it goes back to biblical times, or that Jesus learned the Kabbalah. I'm not making those claims. I don't say that that is correct, but these are the kind of claims that you will hear. And obviously this gives quite a big boost to any practitioner today, if it really does go back to Jesus. And again, I'm not making such a claim. Historically, it would appear to go back to about the 12th century Spain and France. Now, during the 13th century, Christian scholars started to take an interest in the Kabbalah, partly as a way of possibly converting Jews to Christianity, but also as a way of finding proofs of Christianity within this Jewish esoteric tradition. And there was a big emphasis on words, on the Hebrew letters within the words, and on reinterpreting the Torah by looking at each word and the numerical significance of each Hebrew letter within each word, and then comparing the final numerical value of each word with words of the same numerical value. And so you get this kind of esoteric reinterpretation of the Torah. Now, of course, the words that were most significant were the names of God, particularly the Tetragrammaton, or the four-letter name of God, four letters being Hebrew, of course, Yod-He, Vav-He. Now, during the 16th century, Christian scholars interposed the Hebrew letter Shin right in the middle of this Hebrew name of God to create the name Yeshua, or Jesus. So you had Yod-He, Shin, Vav-He. And so in the works of Jakob Boehme, 17th century German mystic, you find this sort of upside down heart with the Hebrew names of God, and at the bottom the name of Yeshua, Yod-He, Shin, Vav-He. Now the question is, of course, why did this system become important to the Western esoteric tradition, even far outside of Judaism and Christianity? And as I say, it's still important today. Well, during the 18th century, Freemasonry arose out of the Stonemasons Guild in Great Britain, had its own initiatic system of 3 degrees, and it spread across to Europe, continental Europe, where it became extremely popular, but was also reinterpreted. And it on the continent in particular, it drew in all kinds of influences: Christian mysticism, Christian chivalry, alchemy, Hermeticism, Rosicrucianism, and so on. And of course, into that mix went the Kabbalah. Now, there were many different quote-unquote rites of Freemasonry that emerged: the rite of strict observance, the Asiatic Brethren, the rite of perfection, and so on. But one rite that wasn't strictly speaking Masonic, although you had to be a Freemason of the fourth degree or Scottish master degree to join, was the Golden Rosicrucians, or the Golden Rosy Cross in Germany. Now, originally this had 1 degree, but by the time they had collapsed closer to the end of the 18th century, they had 9 degrees. And this degree system was incorporated about a century later into the Societas Rosicruciana, which is a Rosicrucian order which initiates Freemasons, only Freemasons. Now, originally it was founded as a kind of scholarly research society. Unlike other Masonic research societies, however, it wasn't focused particularly on Masonic history. It was focused on the history and symbolism and spirituality of different world traditions, from, let's say, Druidry to ancient Egypt to Rosicrucianism, alchemy, the Druze, and so on. So an entire range covering really sort of world spirituality. Now, they adopted this 9-degree system for their rituals, although again these were mostly sort of passing on theoretical information, spiritual ideas, as it were. And from there, 2 of the most prominent members of the late 19th century, William Wynne Westcott and S.R. MacGregor Mathers, went on to co-found the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. And that order was interested in actual practices, so practicing the tarot, invoking sort of god energies in the form of ancient Egyptian deities, and so on. And the Golden Dawn added a couple more degrees, the Neophyte at the bottom, and then the Ipsissimus, which is allegedly beyond all grades, at the very top, and mapped these onto the Kabbalistic tree of life. And the Kabbalah from that point onward really became a kind of filing system, as you'll sometimes hear it referred to, where everything can be mapped onto this structure. And so in the very confusing world of the esoteric and the occult, with all these different, sometimes biblical themes, sometimes pagan themes, or gods or spirits, all of this can be mapped onto the Kabbalah, regardless of what it is, along with things like colors, incense, planets, and so on. And so it makes for this very neat arrangement, a way of thinking about things that you can always relate, say, one god to another, once it's all been mapped onto the Kabbalah. Now, personally, in my own experience, extremely rigid structures tend to be very weak, because life is actually much more fluid and strange than these structures can really stand. And, you know, it's often the case that people can become more intelligent by studying them, but there's a definite limit. Now, because of the influence of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, as well as a similar order, the Ordo Templi Orientis, Kabbalah became especially important in the world of Western esotericism, to the degree that many people a few decades ago would have said that you cannot be practicing esotericism unless you understand and know and practice the Kabbalah. And these people may have been neither Jewish nor Christian. They may have even had some kind of pagan or neo-pagan leanings. Nevertheless, but I would say by around the 1970s, Kabbalah is in significant decline within the world of Western esotericism. And that's largely because of the emergence of orders such as the Illuminates of Thanateros, the emergence of chaos magic, and these sort of much quicker techniques rather than this sort of ceremonial approach, and this sort of much more complicated philosophical structure, a kind of much more free-for-all type approach to esotericism. And I'll probably speak about that at another time. And I'm going to be speaking about different spiritual traditions. I'm also planning to speak about different techniques of meditation, of mind control, hypnosis, and so on. So if you're interested in practice and improving yourself, because I don't want this to be a purely historical channel, then check back. We'll be talking about that. Okay, thanks very much. I will see you soon.